In June of 2005, there was a Regents essay on global problems, and it says, throughout history, global problems have posed major challenges for nations and regions. It says, select two different global problems, and for each, describe one major cause of the global problem, and discuss one effect of the global problem on a specific nation or region. And it made suggestions, and again, when you have the regions, look at the suggestions that are there. And you'll be able to pick the ones out. The ones I picked were different in scope. I picked environmental pollution and then ethnic conflicts. So they're two different types of issues, but they were there listed, and we could pick them up. And this is something that you can write about because it's something, one of them just happened during your time period, right, within the last year. All right, the first one is environmental pollution. Right, pollution of the environment, everybody thinks of air pollution, water pollution, acid rain. All right, I picked nuclear pollution. Right? Nuclear pollution being radiation. Losing my voice. See what we get.
I know.
Ready? Let's try it. Let me keep this with me. So you have nuclear radiation. And the effect of nuclear radiation, which is nuclear pollution, is that it kills people. People get cancer from radiation. It affects what grows in an area. People can't stay in a particular area when there's all of this radiation. And the most famous one was in the USSR. That's not a 5. Mr. Strong's terrible handwriting, but that's the USSR, which tells us that it goes back before 1990. And it was in the Soviet Union, and it happened over in this area here. On this map, the Soviet Union doesn't exist, but it would be in this area. It would be Eastern Europe. And it was in a place called Chernobyl, which was a fairly large city in Western Russia. It was Eastern Europe, but it's Western Russia. Right? There was a nuclear meltdown in the reactor. Somebody didn't do their job. The reactor heated up, heated up, heated up. And then it went out of control. And they had to get all the people out of the city. I'll get a little political here, because back then, the Soviet Union was a totalitarian state, and we know in a totalitarian state that the government controls newspapers, television, radio. So we didn't get much information about what was going on. But it turned out that it was an absolute disaster. The city of Chernobyl, we're in 2011, about 25 years after Chernobyl, no one lives in this city. The apartment houses are all vacant. The streets are vacant. People had to just move out. People who were there got radiation, many of them died. So here's an issue of pollution in the Soviet Union, which basically eliminated the whole city. During your lifetime, this past year, 2011, we had the tidal wave, the tsunami and the earthquake, the combination of the two in Japan. Tidal wave moved onto the shore in Japan into an area where there was a nuclear reactor, threw it out of kilter. That nuclear reactor is now out of control. People living in the area of the nuclear plant had to move. There's heavy radiation in the land. There's radiation in the water. So people are not going to be able to live in that area. They think that the fish in the area around Japan where this disaster happened have a high degree of radiation, and people will not eat fish that have been affected by this radiation. So nuclear pollution is a problem, and in fact, the country of Germany has made a decision that they are not going to have nuclear reactors in the future because of fear of a disaster. And in many countries around the world, people are thinking, well, should we have these things or not? And up until the time in Japan, this is the one that really kind of turned people against it. It used to be that nuclear power was going to be the thing in the future. Okay, so that's one global problem. Second global problem is ethnic conflicts. Different ethnic groups. Conflict meaning that they don't get along. The example I chose was tribal hatred. Ethnic conflicts, hatred. Two tribes that don't get along. And the two tribes are the Hutus and the Tutsis.